One last coffee revealed an incredible connection. How a lonely CEO found hope in a closing cafe. Jesse Thompson stood on the edge of his world, peering into the abyss of not just his failing tech startup, but also his crumbling spirit. Once a celebrated innovator, the 38-year-old CEO found himself lost amid shuttered storefronts and formless murals plastered onto the walls of a struggling downtown. His lofty ambitions had metamorphosed into shadows of disappointment, leaving him dangling between desperation and despair. It was a stifling emotional chokehold that overwhelmed him until he stumbled into Mr. Garcia's Café, a warm oasis of hope buried in the ruins of the urban landscape. The café was as inviting as a favorite old sweater, with the comforting scent of dark roast coffee mingling with the sweet, buttery smell of fresh pastries. Mr. Garcia, a silver-haired veteran with a lifetime of stories etched deep in every wrinkle, leaned behind the counter, while his spirited granddaughter Sophia brightened the room with laughter. Jesse took a seat in the corner, drawn in by the familiar comfort, as sensations rushed back to him like a forgotten song. As he sipped his coffee, he met Lisa, a single mother wrangling two rambunctious kids, and Mr. Reynolds, a retired teacher who reminisced about days filled with purpose and hope. Their stories intertwined, and Jesse felt parts of himself flicker back to life. "Yes, we are struggling," Lisa's laughter held a bittersweet tone, a reminder of the weight she carried every day. "But each morning I tell myself that I have to keep going for them." Jesse's heart clenched. He saw his own fight reflected in her endurance. Somehow, amidst their seemingly chaotic lives, these patrons had established a sanctuary, each soul stitched together in a rich tapestry of resilience. Day by day, their bond solidified, turning the café from just a caffeine pit stop into a beacon of connection, giving him strength he desperately sought. But muffled whispers outside the windows cast a shadow. The café was in trouble. Rumors of closure threatened to sever this haven. As a chill breeze blew through the cracks, Jesse wrestled with his newfound clarity. Should he scramble back to his ambitions haunting him, or should he invest himself in this community that reignited his spirit? The impending loss felt like an unspeakable weight on their shoulders. On the last evening before the café's potential closure, the simmering tension tightened around them. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. In that poignant moment, Jesse leaped into action, organizing a community event designed to save their café. Stepping onto a makeshift stage, his heart raced as he sensed the energy emanating from the crowd of familiar faces. They were a tapestry of stories and resilience. But just as hope swelled, a sudden power outage plunged them into an unsettling darkness. Panic flickered momentarily as Jesse's voice faded into silence. And then a lone beam of light illuminated Sophia, who looked upon Mr. Garcia with a determined smile, igniting something in Jesse's chest. Was this the spark needed to rally everyone? In that fragmented moment, the memories of their shared struggles and dreams coalesced, reminding him of the tenacity they'd forged. Would this be the dawn of a new chapter, or were they simply swimming against the current in a world all too eager to let go? The darkness hung thick in the air, wrapping around them as if the café itself had inhaled in fear. In that chilling silence, Jesse could hear the faint whispers of uncertainty and the rustling of anxious hands. Then, Sophia's light became a guiding star, not just for the audience, but for Jesse, who felt a surge of hope swell inside him. He blinked against the sudden brightness, briefly blinded by the energy radiating from that little girl. It was as if the light pulled him back from the edge of despair. "We can do this," he whispered to himself, his heart hammering against his ribcage. He could sense the crowd shift, the energy vibrating, a collective heartbeat pulse fueled by need and solidarity. The power may have gone out, but Jesse's resolve blazed anew. "Sophia!" he exclaimed, his voice breaking through the shadows. "You're right. We can fight for this place together. The words tumbled out, raw and energizing. He stepped forward as the dim light flickered against the eyes of those gathering in the gloom. She grinned back, her smile infectious, a shot of adrenaline coursing through the crowd. Laughter erupted unexpectedly after he spoke. It startled Jesse, sending ripples of warmth through him. They weren't just patrons anymore. They were dreamers, survivors, and fighters. The flickering light appeared to illuminate every face, revealing emotions etched in lines of worry and resolve. They needed Jesse, and he realized that he desperately needed them too. Let us pull together. He called out again, his words hanging in the air. Let us make a plan. We can organize a fundraiser, spread the word, and show the neighborhood why this cafe means something. The energy was electric, vibrating through the crowd like a string being pulled taut. Faces lit with excitement, and hope started to manifest as tangible energy. He could practically feel waves of reassurance washing over him. Lisa jumped up, waving her arms, her eyes aglow with determination. I can take charge of the social media, get word out to everyone. We can tell our stories. Let the community know how much we need this place. Great idea. Jesse shouted, feeling the warm hum of connection growing stronger. Mr. Reynolds nodded eagerly, I'll gather some old friends from the teaching community. They'd love to help rally local support. And just like that, each voice began chiming in a melody of ideas unfurling in the dark. Jesse stood there, grounded in the moment, swept up in the spirit of it all. They were willing to fight for their safe haven, and it filled Jesse with a joy he hadn't felt in ages. It felt like home. As strategies took shape, Jesse felt a warmth radiate through his chest. Here, on the precipice of calamity, they weren't just salvaging a cafe, they were building something beautiful and resilient. He could envision it, this place blossoming with vibrant energy, an antidote to the chaos outside. Yet amidst the excitement, the lingering shadows of uncertainty still tickled the edges of his mind. In every smile, there were fears retold. What if it wasn't enough? As they began to outline their hopes, a sudden loud knock echoed from the front of the cafe. Everyone paused, eyes darting nervously toward the source of the sound. The door creaked open, revealing a figure silhouetted against the faint flicker of Sophia's light. A tall silhouette, bearing the weight of authority, stepped into the cafe, casting a long shadow. Is this where all the noise is coming from? The stranger asked, an eyebrow raised in curiosity. Jesse's heart raced. What did this mean? Were they in trouble, or could this stranger become an ally? Jesse took a deep breath, bracing himself for what might come next. The newcomer paused just inside the threshold, his presence commanding immediate attention. It took a moment for Jesse to notice the soft glow of compassion in his eyes, a subtle hint that perhaps he wasn't there to cast judgment. The room was tense, the air thick with anticipation. Are we in trouble? Murmured Lisa, her voice barely above a whisper. Jesse could see the glint of fear in her eyes. He shook his head, willing the uncertainty away. No, Jesse said, stepping forward. We're just trying to save this cafe. He raised his chin defiantly, hoping to exude confidence. The man's eyebrows knitted together in thought before he finally took a step forward, letting the door close behind him. I'm Derek, he introduced himself. I work with the city's community outreach program. Jesse felt the edges of his apprehension soften just a little, but questions swirled inside him like a storm. Why was he really here? Look, I know what it's like to care deeply about a place, Derek continued, his voice more accessible now. These small businesses are the heart of our community. Then help us. Jesse urged, his excitement bubbling up like soda shaken too hard. I want to, Derek interrupted, waving his hands to calm the rising chorus of voices. But I need to understand your plan. What do you have in mind? Slowly, each person in the cafe began to share their ideas, the atmosphere shifting from worry to determination. Jesse watched as faces lit up, eyes shining with resolve. One after another they spoke, weaving their desires into a tapestry of hope. The cafe could host events, offer classes, and even serve meals to the homeless. Derek listened intently, nodding as he took notes. With every suggestion, Jesse felt the energy building again, like a wave gathering force before crashing ashore. He took charge, leading the way, each idea sparking another. Sophia's light flickered above them, almost as if it were encouraging them onward. As the ideas flowed, a thought tugged at the edge of Jesse's mind: what if this was truly happening? What if Derek was their lifeline? Additionally, Derek said, breaking into the fervor, I can help with permits and grants. If we rally the right people, this can work. Cheers erupted, voices blending into a jubilant chorus. But even amidst the jubilation, Jesse noticed a shadow behind Derek's smile. A fissure of doubt creased his brow for just a fleeting moment. He caught Jesse's gaze, and there was something in his eyes, a loneliness that echoed Jesse's innermost fears. What if? Jesse wondered silently, and at that instant, he felt a stirring sense of connection with Derek. They were both searching for something, both battling shadows. But then the joy washed away as a young woman piped up from the back, what if we don't get enough support? The room fell silent again, tension swirling back into the air. Jesse took a deep breath, conscious of the weight of those words settling over them. We will, he said, voice steady despite the tremor in his heart. Because we're not alone anymore. We have each other. Derek chuckled, the warmth returning to his features. And if we can show the community what this cafe means to us, who knows what could happen. As night deepened outside, the cafe glowed brightly with their shared hope. Just as plans were solidifying, Jesse realized he had to dig deeper. Derek, he asked, his voice taut, you mentioned caring for small businesses. What about you? What brought you here tonight? Derek's expression shifted, revealing a hidden vulnerability. Jesse held his breath, waiting for the revelation that could turn the tide not just for the cafe, but maybe even for Derek himself. Let me tell you a story. Derek began, and as the words flowed, Jesse felt a rush of anticipation, knowing that everything could change with what came next. Derek's voice dropped low, pulling everyone closer, the weight of his story pulling them all into his world. A few years back, I was in a similar place to where you all are now, he began, his eyes flickering with memories. I was running a small tech startup. We had passion, we had dreams, but we were struggling to keep the lights on. I remember one late night, staring at a mountain of bills with no idea how to climb out. I felt completely alone, he paused, glancing around the cafe. Just like how you all might feel right now. The room was hushed. Jesse could feel the weight of Derek's words wrapping around them, knitting a shared bond, a connection forged from common struggles. I used to frequent this little cafe in my neighborhood, Derek continued, his voice choking with emotion. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like home. The barista knew my order by heart. It was a refuge away from the chaos. I shared my hopes with the cafe's owner, just like you're sharing yours with each other now. What happened? Lisa broke the silence, her curiosity shining through. Derek hesitated, his gaze drifting. One day, I walked in and found a closing soon sign on the door. Just like that, my safe place was gone. I never got to say goodbye. That day, I realized how much community matters. How a simple cafe can be the heart of a neighborhood. Jesse felt something shift inside him. This wasn't just about saving a business, it was about creating a sanctuary. But I didn't want to just lose it without a fight, Derek continued, regaining his composure. So, I reached out. I knocked on doors, shared my story, rallied the locals. Slowly but surely, we brought the cafe back. It became a community hub, a safe haven once more. As Derek spoke, Jesse could see the glimmer of hope in the eyes around him. Each person seemed to absorb his story, growing stronger with every word. Why are you telling us this? Jesse finally spoke up, curiosity burning brightly. Derek smiled, warmth flooding his expression. Because I believe in what you're doing here. Each story is a thread, weaving together to create something beautiful. And sharing your struggles matter. It makes you human. It can change everything. This cafe is your story now, he concluded gently. You have the chance to build something amazing. Hope blossomed in the room, stitching together the doubts like mismatched pieces of a quilt. Jesse felt that familiar flicker again, the fire igniting within him. They could do this. They could make a difference. But just as that flame began to rise, a shadow flickered across Derek's face again. Jesse caught at an underlying fear that threatened to overshadow the hope they were building. What's holding you back, Derek? Jesse pressed, the cafe growing silent as everyone's attention turned back toward him. Derek looked at each face, the vulnerability spilling into the air like a soft haze. I want to help, truly, but I'm terrified of failing again. I've seen what happens when you put everything on the line, and sometimes it doesn't pay off. A heavy silence settled over the cafe, each person sensing his struggle. In that moment, they all recognized a shared battle, the fear of putting their heart into something and losing it. Jesse felt a surge of empathy. But we've already taken the first step, he said, his voice steady. This is bigger than us. We can't let fear dictate our future. The room buzzed with renewed energy, ideas sparking back to life. Jesse locked eyes with Derek, a silent understanding passing between them. As they began brainstorming again, the cafe hummed with hope and possibility, but Jesse couldn't shake the feeling that Derek's journey was far from over. What if they found a way to support him too? And as the night wore on, Jesse knew that the story of their cafe and of Derek was just beginning to unfold. Would they leap forward and inspire a community? Or would they trip over the very fears that had gripped them? The clock on the wall ticked louder, suggesting a pivotal moment was approaching. The chatter in the cafe surged again, but it wasn't just noise. It was the echo of dreams colliding, sparking ideas that flared brightly in the dim light. Jesse felt the pulse in his chest, a rhythm quickened by the momentum building all around him. It was as if the cafe itself was alive, breathing with the stories of each person gathered and the promise of what lay ahead. Derek, still standing at the front, surveyed the crowd. Okay, let's brainstorm, he said, his voice filled with newfound energy. What do we want this cafe to become? Community events. Someone shouted eagerly from the corner. Game nights, open mics, things to bring people together. Yes. Whispered Lisa, fire igniting in her eyes. We could offer workshops, teach skills, anything to pull in those who feel isolated. The ideas flowed like the coffee they loved so much. Devil's food, chocolate cakes infused with laughter, a table where local artists displayed their work, seasonal festivals held under twinkling fairy lights, all visions conjured from the heart, meant to breathe life into the cafe. Jess's mind whirled. What if we had a wall of stories? A place for people to share their journeys, like Derek did? Wouldn't that help connect us even more? Derek perked up at that. A beautiful way to honor our past and bring in new narratives. As they continued sharing ideas, Jesse noticed the faces around him, each smile, each glimmer of hope reflected back at him. And, in these contagious moments, he caught glimpses of their fears too, the anguish of vulnerability, the doubts that crept in uninvited. Derek, you've been through so much, Jesse said, as the buzz of ideas quieted slightly. How did you find the strength? What helped you pull through? Derek's gaze turned serious. The room hushed, anticipation hanging like fruit ready to be picked. It wasn't easy. I almost gave up on a couple of occasions. But every time I felt like quitting, a friend or a stranger reminded me why I started. He drew a deep breath, steadying himself. I realized that strength isn't just about holding on, sometimes it's about leaning on others, about asking for help. A ripple of recognition washed through the group. It was a reminder that they were never truly alone. Jesse felt his heart leap. Derek, we can create a support network here. Let us put out a sign saying we're not just a cafe, but also a lifeline. Laughter erupted, but it was tinged with something deeper, a collective understanding that they were all in this together. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and a familiar face slipped inside. It was the barista from Derek's old cafe, the one who had served him countless cups through his struggles. Jessie had seen her serve coffee with kindness, eyes sparkling even during bustling hours. "Is this where the magic is happening?" she asked, her voice carrying a warmth that instantly wrapped around everyone like a favorite blanket. "Join us," Derek invited, his smile infectious. "We're building a community here, one cup at a time." As she settled into the circle with a gleam in her eyes, Jessie felt a surge of connection swell within him. It clicked, everyone had their own story, and every story mattered. The clock ticked on, but Jessie's pulse quickened as he absorbed it all, the emotions, the yearning to belong, the promise of shared experiences. As people partnered up to bring ideas to life, the air shifted again, charged with possibility. But just as the night felt alive with shared intentions, Jessie caught sight of Derek, who was now staring off into the distance. There was a far-off look in his eyes, one that hinted at deeper layers yet untapped, as if there were more to unravel. "What's really on your mind, Derek?" Jessie asked, voice steady but probing. The weight of his words hung in the air. "I think we all have shadows in our past we don't want to face. But what if facing them is what it takes for us all to really thrive?" The tension thickened, stirring curiosity and concern. Just how far would they need to go to confront the past and step into their collective future? Jessie felt a chill run through him. Would they dare to embrace the shadows to reach the light? As hope swirled with uncertainty, he knew more was coming, both for Derek and for the dream they were weaving together. The cafe felt charged, its heartbeat in tune with their own, waiting for the next turn of their story. The cafe buzzed with energy, yet beneath the surface, an unspoken tension lingered like a shadow stretching across the room. Jessie couldn't shake the feeling that Derek had touched on something profound, something that resonated with all of them. They all battled their own darkness, it was a part of the human experience, one they often tried to hide from one another. Derek's statement hung in the air, waiting for someone to pick it up. Finally, Lisa, her brow furrowed with contemplation, broke the silence. "What if we turned that into a theme for our cafe?" she suggested, her voice dropping a hint of seriousness. "What if we dedicated a night to discussing our struggles, maybe even sharing those shadows? Could that help us heal?" The idea seemed to ripple through the crowd. Jessie could see heads nodding in agreement, but he also noticed the hesitance on some faces. Questions swirled in the air. Was it really a good idea to delve into such personal places? Yet, there was a spark, the glimmer of that hunger for connection rising to the forefront. "I like that," Jessie said, feeling a sudden urge to support her idea. "We could call it Confessions Over Coffee, a safe space, where nobody feels judged, just heard. We all have stories that shape us, but maybe sharing them is the first step in connecting together as a community." Derek's eyes lit up. "Exactly. It's about vulnerability, breaking that wall. Who knows what we'll find on the other side?" As Jessie looked around the table, he saw something shifting. People who had been distant were leaning in. Conversations sparked in small corners, whispers of their own traumas and triumphs beginning to emerge. This wasn't just about running a cafe, it was about creating a family. Just then, the barista, whose name Jessie finally learned was Mia, chimed in. "I've seen that magic happen before. You know, when people start sharing their truths, the bond it creates can be unbreakable." Her voice danced like warm sunlight filtering through trees. "It's incredible what happens when you give people permission to be open." A hush fell over the cafe as Mia spoke, her words weaving a spell of hope and understanding through the air. But Jessie sensed something deeper behind her eyes. There was an untold narrative waiting to spill out. "Have you been through something too?" Jessie couldn't help but ask, his curiosity piqued. Mia hesitated, her gaze flickering to Derek, then back to the group. We all carry our burdens, don't we? She sighed but then allowed a hesitant smile to break through. I lost my father last year. This cafe was his favorite place. And sometimes I sit here, surrounded by laughter, and it rushes back the echoes of his laughter. His warmth. The room grew tranquil, absorbing her words like an affirmation. In that moment, the cafe transformed. It became an oasis where pain and joy mingled freely, where strangers were stitching together their lives with threads of shared experience. Jesse felt a lump rise in his throat, emotion cascading within him. Every heart in the room seemed to synchronize, each rhythm pulsing in empathy. They were not just patrons of a cafe, they were co-authors of a collective narrative. I think we need to honor those stories, Derek said softly, his voice cutting through the melancholy moment. Let us create a tribute wall, maybe even plant a tree in here, something that symbolizes growth from our togetherness, from our struggles. Cheers erupted, and Jesse felt a surge of energy. They were onto something, an idea that could breathe life into each shadow lingering in their hearts. But just as excitement overwhelmed the previous atmosphere of vulnerability, Jesse caught a glimpse of Derek again. The expression on his face shifted from hope to contemplation, layered with a hint of fear. What are you worried about? Jesse asked, a flash of concern breaking through his elation. Derek sighed deeply, uncertainty clouding his features. What if those shadows we face aren't as simple as sharing a story? What if it leads to questions we aren't ready to answer? The laughter fell away. The thrill of community began to lurch into something heavier, a reality check. Would they have the courage to explore the complex shadows within? As the conversations resumed, Jesse pondered Derek's words. Where would they go from here? Would sharing their darkest moments lead them closer together or tear them apart? The air in the cafe was thick with anticipation, hope, and fear, waiting to see what would unfold next. The chatter in the cafe dulled, replaced by an almost electric silence, as Jesse stared at Derek. The weight of unspoken fears felt palpable, like a thick fog settling over their vibrant plans. People glanced at one another, uncertainty replacing the earlier excitement. Maybe Derek's right, Lisa said softly, breaking the silence. What if this place we're trying to build becomes something we aren't ready for? Her words lingered, piercing through the hope they had just built. Jesse could see a mix of unease and curiosity flicker across the tables. What if we set guidelines? Mia suggested, her tone firm yet gentle, as if trying to coax courage from the group. We could establish a rule that if someone shares, it needs to be their own experience, not someone else's. No probing questions afterward. Just listening. Jesse nodded in agreement. A no-judgment policy. Safe space. That sounds good. Each word felt like a lifeline, drifting through the community they had begun to form. But in Derek's eyes, Jesse sensed an internal struggle. It's not just about the rules, Derek said, his voice steady yet underlying vulnerability was apparent. It's about what those stories might trigger. Sometimes, sharing isn't just cathartic. It can also open old wounds. The truth of his words hung in the air, casting a shadow over the hopeful ideas. For Jesse, it was a reminder that vulnerability was a two-edged sword. Would they be ready for the tides of emotion that might wash over them? Isn't that why we need this? Mia spoke up, her voice gaining strength. To face those wounds together. To support one another in a way that heals. If we avoid sharing out of fear, aren't we just letting those shadows loom larger? The argument stirred something in the room. Jesse felt the ripple of agreement and dissent as others processed the challenge. It was an emotional tug-of-war, an invitation to take the leap despite the risks. Tentative conversations resumed, people leaning closer, heads bent together in hushed tones. Jokes attempted to break the tension, but Jesse noticed some faces were drawn, brows furrowed. Not everyone was ready. He cast his gaze around the room and saw a flicker of fear behind Lisa's eyes. What if I don't have a story? What if I'm the one who comes and goes, just another face in the crowd? She whispered, her vulnerability striking. Your presence is a story, Jessie reassured her, reaching out. We've all felt lost at times. Just being here is part of your journey. The connections we make might show us where we belong. Her eyes brightened with gratitude, yet still glimmered with doubt. Suddenly, Jessie wondered if nurturing the idea of sharing would open pathways to connection or deepen loneliness for some individuals. The stakes felt higher than just coffee and confessions. Derek caught Jessie's gaze. Sometimes, it's okay to feel lost, he said, a small smile breaking through his concern. Maybe it's a testament to the complicated lives we lead. Embracing that thought, Jessie felt a surge of resolve. Then let us embrace the uncertainty. Let us make this happen, no matter what we may face. The crowd cheered again, though the undercurrents of fear and hope twisted around them like smoke. They were moving forward, but an invisible barrier still loomed overhead. As Jessie glanced at Mia, he caught a look. Was this more than just her cafe? Was it her way of healing too? The cafe's door swung open then, and a gust of wind swirled inside, carrying a downpour of raindrops. Jessie's heart raced. Was it an omen? He noticed the heavy clouds darkening outside. Would they all weather this storm together? Just as the opening notes of a long-forgotten song filled the air, cascading through the cafe, Jessie felt a surge of energy surge through the group, teetering between excitement and trepidation. Could this shared journey really help them face their shadows? As laughter began to bubble up once more, Jessie caught Derek's eye, a flicker of acknowledgement passing between them. They were on the edge of something monumental. But deep down, Jessie couldn't shake the feeling that not all might make it through this tempest. What hidden truths would surface as they opened the floodgates to their emotions? The rain fell heavier now, tapping against the windows like a soft drumbeat, each droplet echoing the rhythm of their escalating emotions. The cafe, once a sanctuary of laughter, now felt like a cocoon, wrapping them in uncertainties as shadows danced in the corners. Okay, let us do this, Mia said, her voice lifted by a quiet determination. Who wants to go first? She glanced around the room, searching for a brave soul willing to take that first leap into vulnerability. There was a collective exchange of glances, a soft shuffle of feet, and Jessie felt the weight of everyone's hesitation. The atmosphere surged with anticipation, yet nobody moved. It was as if they were all standing at the edge of a diving board, peering into a vast pool of unknown depths. Maybe I'll start, Lisa said suddenly, taking a deep breath. Her voice trembled slightly, but there was a spark in her eyes that Jessie hadn't seen before. I've always felt invisible in every room I enter, you know. Like the world just passes me by. I thought maybe sharing that feeling would help. A hush fell over the group like they were collectively holding their breath. The moment Lisa's words hung in the air, Jessie felt a shift. Here was a vulnerability laid bare. Lisa was sharing a piece of herself and, with it, daring others to do the same. I feel that too, Derek admitted quietly, his fingers tapping nervously on the table. Sometimes, I think the more successful I become, the more alone I am. Everyone sees the title, but nobody sees the person behind it. It's exhausting, wearing that mask all the time. Jessie watched as the tension eased slightly, faces softening with recognition. It was a dance of emotions, one brave revelation inviting another. Each story spun a new thread into the fabric of the group, weaving them closer together. As the stories flowed, Jessie could feel a warmth building in the cafe. The barriers that had once seemed insurmountable began to crumble. Laughter mingled with tears, and moments of silence became crucial pauses, allowing everyone to digest the weight of shared burdens and beautiful connections. Mia leaned in, her eyes bright. I never expected this, she confessed. I thought I was just here to run a cafe, but it feels like we're building something much bigger. Something that might even heal us. There was a shimmer of hope in her voice, as if she, too, was realizing a deeper purpose. But just as the atmosphere brightened, an uneasy tension prickled at Jessie's skin. Despite the warmth radiating from their shared stories, an undercurrent of pain rippled just beneath the surface. He remembered the shadow he sensed lurking in the corners of the room, a reminder that not every story would feel like a warm embrace. "Can I share something?" A voice cut through the fog of emotions. It was Jamie, someone Jesse hadn't noticed before. The slight figure at the back of the cafe shook slightly as he spoke. I don't know if I can, but I've been coming here for weeks, and today I felt like I needed to say," he faltered, his breath quickening. The fear in his eyes mirrored the very uncertainty that had bound them all. Jesse's heart raced, torn between the urge to reassure Jamie and the knowledge that this moment could reshape everything. "Take your time," he said, his own voice steady, yet laced with empathy, urging Jamie to let go of his fears. As Jamie clutched the edge of his seat, the room fell still again. What would he reveal? Would this moment bring them closer or push them further apart? Jesse held his breath, keenly aware that the safety they had started to create was still fragile. The cafe, still humming with the sound of the rain and lingering hope, felt charged with a new kind of energy. Each moment stretched with possibility, igniting all their hidden truths. The journey was just beginning, but Jesse couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of uncovering not just their stories, but deeper, darker secrets each of them held. What would Jamie share? Would it change everything? Jamie's gaze darted around the room as if seeking an anchor. The silence grew heavy, and for a moment, Jesse thought he might bolt from the cafe. But Jamie took a deep breath, bringing those around him back into focus. Each pair of eyes mirrored a mix of encouragement and anxiety. Jamie hesitated. "I've been coming here because I feel lost. I thought maybe I could find someone who understood, but every time I sit here, I just feel even more lonely." He swallowed hard, visibly fighting the turmoil that threatened to spill over. Jesse leaned forward, sensing the vulnerability that cloaked Jamie. "You're not alone. We've all felt that way." The room vibrated with unspoken empathy, and he felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. With a newfound strength, Jamie continued, "I used to have this vision for my life, you know. A career that inspired me, a family, a place in the world. But everything just fell apart. A messy divorce, losing touch with friends, and the pressure to succeed. I threw myself into work, but the emptiness just kept growing. Coming here felt like the last refuge." Murmurs of understanding rippled through the group. Jesse could see their faces react, shadows of their own struggles flickering in their eyes. Jamie's words hung in the air, echoing the deeply buried fears they all shared. Derek shifted in his seat. "You're brave for saying that, Jamie. I think we all hide behind our busy lives, thinking it keeps us from feeling the loss. But in reality, it does the opposite." Lisa leaned in closer, her voice gentle. "Sometimes we believe we have to put on a facade for the world, but transparency can be a strength." "Exactly," Jamie said, trembling but resolute. "This cafe became a place where I could be just me. No titles or expectations. But I still felt invisible." That word, invisible, echoed in Jesse's mind. He knew it was a universal feeling that often haunted people. The familiarity of Jamie's struggles tugged at his own heart, drawing him into a shared experience. "You're seen here," Jesse said slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. "In this space, we're all seeking connection, trying to navigate our lives. Your story matters, and so do you." Jamie's eyes glistened, something shifted in him. It was as if his earlier fears dissipated like the rain clouds outside. He had taken a risk, and it was paying off. The room felt infused with a new kind of warmth, a camaraderie born from shared vulnerability. As the conversation deepened, Jesse noticed Mia wiping away a tear, a soft smile breaking through. "I never thought I'd host a group that could dive so deep," she confessed softly. "But perhaps healing happens together." The realization settled over them, a comforting blanket. Each story shared and each struggle echoed were building bonds that would ripple far beyond that rainy evening. Still, one nagging thought flickered just beneath the surface of this emerging hope. What about the deeper secrets? the shadows that threatened to upend the delicate balance they had started to weave. Then, as if answering the unspoken question, Jesse recalled a conversation he'd had with Mia earlier that day, a conversation about her own hidden pain. "Can I ask something?" Jesse started, glancing toward Mia, noticing the way her expression shifted slightly. "Is there something you're holding back?" The air thickened again, the next revelation seemingly poised to change everything. What depths remained to be uncovered in this gathering of souls? The cafe buzzed with anxious anticipation, ready to unravel a truth that might bring them even closer or tear them apart. The cafe was hushed, the rain pounding against the windows as if urging them to dig deeper. All eyes turned toward Mia, who was caught in Jesse's gaze. He sensed a weight behind her silence, a complex story framing her experience with loss. With a gentle exhale, Mia took a step forward, her fingers trembling slightly on the table. "I've been trying to hold it together," she admitted, her voice steadier than she felt, "but I'm not sure I can anymore. After losing my father last year, I thought this cafe would help me heal. But I didn't realize how much I had buried." Jesse felt a tightness in his chest. She had shared snippets before, but now the rawness of her grief echoed in the room, igniting a deep understanding among them. "I come here every day, pretending to be fine," Mia continued, her voice breaking. "But I'm terrified that I'm not living up to his legacy, the warmth he offered, the sense of community he created. It feels like a weight I carry alone." The silence enveloped them, thick with shared sorrow. Jesse's heart sank, a swell of empathy washing over the group. They had all come to this cafe seeking refuge, and here they were, exploring layers of anguish that long lingered. "You're not alone, Mia," Derek's gentle voice broke through the quiet. "You've built something beautiful here. This cafe is a continuation of your dad's legacy. It's a place for others to find healing, just as you're trying to." That spark in Derek's eyes reminded Jesse of the resilience blooming within them all. This cafe was not just a business, it was a haven for shared struggles and stories, woven together in a patchwork of community healing. "When I was grieving," Mia shared, "I felt broken, like I had lost a part of myself I could never get back. But as I connected with each of you, I see that I'm not alone in my journey of grief. Maybe that's what makes this place special." Jamie nodded, tears glimmering in his eyes. "Just by being here, we're all supporting each other." As their voices mingled, a wave of acceptance washed over the cafe. Laughter and tears wove seamlessly, grounding each shared experience. They were all travelers navigating their own storms, yet each story drew them closer, transforming their pain into something powerful. Jesse marveled at how the cafe had evolved. What had begun as a sanctuary from despair had blossomed into a blossoming tree of hope against the backdrop of struggle. "Let's plan a community event," Jesse suggested, feeling emboldened. "We can invite everyone to share their stories here, open mic style. It can be both a tribute to those we've lost and a celebration of what connects us." Mia's eyes sparkled with gratitude. "Yes. Let us honor the memories while creating new ones. We can invite people to bring photos or letters and share their experiences." Motivated whispers and excited chatter erupted around the cafe. Each person felt a spark of empowerment, igniting a sense of belonging, each voice becoming part of a grander chorus they had cultivated together. Standing in that old cafe, Jesse felt like a different person from the man who had first arrived. He no longer felt like an isolated figure in a world crumbling around him. He found family in these individuals, his fears, hopes, and dreams echoing in their conversations. As the rain crescendoed outside, it mirrored their bubbling connection. It was a tapestry woven from an array of textures: joy, grief, hope, and solidarity, and Jesse realized the richness of vulnerability made them infinitely stronger. At long last, Mia's smile returned, an authentic radiance lighting the way through the shadows. "We are going to turn this cafe into something even more meaningful. This is not just coffee, it's a lifeline." And Jesse caught the glint of determination in her eyes, it was contagious. Together, They would build something beyond coffee or pastries, a commitment to honor their stories and those shared in the café's heart. As the evening drew to a close, an extraordinary bond had formed, a community uplifted from the threads of authenticity, woven together by laughter and understanding. Just as they began to chart their course, the promise of tomorrow filled the air. Sometimes, facing their shadows led them to a greater light. Jesse couldn't wait to see where this journey would take them next. And as the clock continued to tick on that rainy night, he understood that whatever storms lay ahead, they would weather them together. Now, if you're feeling inspired by this story, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss your chance to join us for more incredible transformations and stories that matter. Leave a like now to show your support and feed the algorithm. Your engagement really helps us spread this message of hope. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel the power of community and connection. Let's make sure everyone knows they're not alone. Comment below with your feelings about the ending. You need to be heard. Your experiences matter.